As Dave Gibson, 4157, once said, there are two types of people in this world, those who love Kurt Russell and those who are wrong. Today we're talking about a true legend of cinema, a man whose versatility and charisma have captivated audiences for decades. Kurt Russell started acting at the age of 12, appearing on shows like Gunsmoke and Gilligan's Island. He went on to become one of Hollywood's biggest stars. Now I'm going to list Kurt Russell's top 10 movies from worst to best. This list isn't focused on the merits of each movie in general, it's about Kurt's performance and how it fits into the arc of his overall career. Also, this is my top 10 list, so if you don't like the movies I pick, too bad! Make up your own top 10 list. Here we go, number 10.
I mean, I can't sell a car unless I get them on the lot, huh?
Kurt Russell plays a struggling used car salesman in the 1980 film Used Cars. Before this, Kurt made a bunch of Disney movies that were okay, but kind of goofy. In this film, directed by Robert Zemeckis, we start to see the formation of a more adult performance, and we really start to see some of the mannerisms that would come to define Kurt later in his career. The film blends slapstick humor with a heartfelt message. Used Cars is a comedic gem that showcases Kurt's charisma and his comedic timing. Side note, actor Garrett Graham almost got hit by a car while making the film. In one scene, Graham stumbles backwards across a road, narrowly missing a speeding car. It was the 80s and the job of on-set safety officer hadn't been invented yet. At number 9, we have Tango Cash.
Who hired you to kill me?
Yeah, that Tango Cash was Sly Stallone playing a greasy LA detective. It's also Kurt's first movie where he appears in drag. Nice. The movie came out in 1989, and by this point, Kurt is a massive action star. He's had a few pretty big movies come out by this time. It's classic Kurt Russell in a wall-to-wall action flick. Check it out. At number 8, we have Tequila Sunrise.
I thought you retired.
I am retired.
Kurt stars with Mel Gibson and Michelle Pfeiffer, and when this film came out in 1988, it was a must-see blockbuster and made over $100 million at the box office. Kurt plays a super cool police detective with a rather complicated friendship with Mel Gibson's character, who's a former drug dealer who's trying to go straight. Kurt did some serious movies in the 80s like Silkwood and Mean Season, but Tequila Sunrise was by far the most successful of a more serious type of role. Side note, Kurt's look in the movie was actually styled after basketball coach Pat Riley. Kurt said he thought Riley's appearance was, quote, arrogantly confident but not offensive. Sci-fi goodness, a wimpy James Spader, and Kurt in military mode.
Why are you here?
I'm here in case you succeed.
Our number 7 film is 1994's Stargate. Our first scene with Kurt has him sitting at home holding a gun. Then the camera pans over to a picture of a kid. If you thought the kid was no longer alive, you'd be right, because Kurt's character forgot to lock up his gun and the kid accidentally shot himself. How's that for backstory? Don't worry, you're gonna love Kurt by the end of this movie because he's going to sacrifice himself to save all humanity. In the movie, Kurt gets called back to active duty to babysit James Spader as they travel back in time through a portal that takes them to a remote desert planet. This film has 53% on Rotten Tomatoes. Keep in mind, this is the same site that has Jurassic World at 77% and Barbie at 88%. And that movie sucked. Better enjoy this video while you can because I'm about to get canceled. Fast cars, hot girls, and a deranged stuntman. Our number 6 movie is Death Proof. In this movie, we have Kurt playing a deranged stuntman who for some reason is hell-bent on killing as many hot girls as possible. Why? It doesn't matter. Quentin Tarantino wanted to make a slasher exploitation flick, and you know what that means. Plot means nothing. Backstory? Who needs it? Here we have modern-day Kurt with long hair, being a badass with his usual easy-go-lucky charm.
Fair lady, your chariot awaits.
Look at him. He's an older guy in this movie, and he's still the coolest guy in the bar by 1,000 points. And look at Eli Roth. Like, what is he doing there? Death Proof is not a great movie, but it stars Kurt Russell, and it's directed by Quentin Tarantino. I think it's a classic piece of American cinema.
So why don't you explain to me what an African bounty hunter's doing wandering around in the snow in the middle of Wyoming?
Now we're getting to the good stuff, our man in a Western. The Hateful Eight came out in 2015. Kurt plays John the Hangman Ruth, who's transporting a female prisoner, played to perfection by Jennifer Jason Leigh. He ends up giving Samuel L. Jackson a ride, and they end up at a snowy outpost with a bunch of super shady characters. The rest of the movie takes place at this one location. It's a great study on how each actor approaches their character. This is a dialogue-heavy film, and at times it can feel like the third wall gets broken. with the actors just reciting their lines. But Kurt seems to morph into his character.
What's your name, Buster?
Ruth exudes suspicion. It pairs perfectly with Tarantino ratcheting up the tension, scene by scene, until all hell breaks loose.
One of them fellas is not what he says he is.
The ending is classic Tarantino. A lot of people are divided on this movie, and I get why. It's long, and Quentin gets a little too experimental. But Kurt is fantastic, and you're compelled to watch every second he's on screen. My number 4 Kurt Russell movie is Escape from New York. Kurt plays Bob Pliskin.
Call me Snake.
A one-eyed, one-man army with a bad attitude and a rap sheet longer than a CVS receipt. Now this is an important film in Kurt's career because it marked his transition from light comedies and Disney movies to dramas and action roles. This movie takes place in 1988, where the island of Manhattan has been turned into a giant open-air prison. Of course, in real life, that dystopian nightmare never happened, but unfortunately, the Times Square Applebee's is still in operation. The plot kicks off when the president's plane crashes into the city. Snake gets a deal, rescue the prez, and get a full pardon. But there's only one catch. He has micro-explosives put in its neck that go boom if he fails the mission. No pressure, right?
When I get back, I'm gonna kill you.
This is a classic 80s action flick, and Kurt is perfect in this role. Word is Russell followed a hardcore diet and exercise program to develop his lean and muscular physique. He also reportedly stayed in character between takes, although he did take off his eye patch because it was affecting his depth perception. For me, this is the sweet spot of Kurt's early career. And as an 80s kid, this is one of my favorite movies of all time. And now another John Carpenter movie. My number 3 pick is Big Trouble in Little China.
Follow the leader. 1, 2, 3.
In this 1986 action comedy, Kurt plays Jack Burton, a wisecracking truck driver who likes to gamble in San Francisco's Chinatown. He ends up taking a friend to pick up a girl at the airport, who then gets kidnapped by a Chinese gang. Along the way, he meets Samantha from Sex and the City. As they track down the missing girlfriend, they run into 3 Raidens from Mortal Kombat and an evil wizard named Lo Pan. Jack and his buddy make a plan to rescue the girlfriend with the help of a bunch of fighters, a local magician, and Samantha from Sex and the City. While far from perfect, Big Trouble in Little China is a wild ride, packed with action and cool special effects, especially for the mid-80s. Best of all, we have Kurt Russell doing what he does best, playing an action hero to the hilt, but also showing his comedy chops. Kurt said he got inspiration for the character from John Wayne, but wanted to boost his bravado to a ridiculous degree. Jack is an action hero who gets knocked unconscious at the very start of the biggest fight scene in the movie, but somehow he blunders his way through to succeed. Now get this, Big Trouble in Little China was a big flop. It only grossed $11 million in its opening, but since then, surprise, surprise, it's become a cult classic and one of Kurt Russell's most memorable roles. Giant mustaches, wild shootouts, and a syphilis-ridden Val Kilmer. Our number 2 movie is Tombstone.
I did my duty. I'd like to get on with my life.
Kurt Russell plays retired lawman Wyatt Earp in this 1993 Western. The plot is loosely based on the 1881 gunfight at the OK Corral. Kurt's character, recently retired, is just looking to settle down in the nice town of Tombstone. Well, that's not going to work out. Wyatt reunites with his brothers and confront a local gang called the Cowboys. Tensions start bubbling up like a pot of spaghetti on the stove, leading up to the big showdown at the OK Corral. The film builds to an epic climax and features Kurt in a role he was born to play.
Your friends might get me in a rush, but not before I make your head into a canoe. You understand me?
While much of the critical reviews focus on Val Kilmer's Doc Holliday, and props to him, he was great, Kurt's Wyatt Earp was played to perfection, reserved, serious, and totally believable as a lawman in 1880s Arizona. Kurt not only rode to the rescue in the movie, but in real life as well. The production of Tombstone hit a series of roadblocks. When the director was fired, Kurt essentially took over the film, came up with shot lists, and rewrote parts of the script. Tombstone is a success for what Kurt did in front of the camera and behind the scenes. Instant junk, a wretched excess. The film is bereft, despairing, and nihilistic. Boring. A geek show, a gross-out movie. This is what critics had to say about The Thing when it came out in 1982.
You gotta be kidding.
But here is what 3-time Academy Award-winning director Guillermo del Toro has to say about the movie today. The Thing by John Carpenter, a game changer, again, and one of the finest horror films ever made. It cannot be matched. Holy Grail. The Thing came out the same month as E.T., so kind of tough competition. But I remember seeing this as a kid and I thought it was awesome. The Thing kicks off in Antarctica with a Norwegian helicopter pilot chasing a sled dog across the ice. Then a group of Americans watch the pilot accidentally blow himself up. Kurt Russell plays R.J. McCready, a badass helicopter pilot that wears a sombrero. They head over to the Norwegian base to find out what the is going on. There, they discover a disgusting humanoid corpse and bring it back for autopsy, only to discover the sled dog has transformed into a shape-shifting monster. Kurt's character takes charge of an impossible situation in a battle to stay alive in the remotest region on Earth, stalked by an alien being of unspeakable power. This is 1 hour and 49 minutes of nail-biting tension. Kurt Russell's performance in this film is subtle, understated. He plays the stalwart hero, and you'd think this film was done much later in his career. But keep in mind, this came out right after Used Cars and Escape from New York. The Thing came out before Silkwood, before The Mean Season, and before Tequila Sunrise. It's a mature performance in a film that was way, way ahead of its time. John Carpenter actually considered other actors for this role, including Jeff Bridges, Christopher Walken, and Nick Nolte. He ultimately decided Kurt was the man for the job because he found him reliable in the past and needed someone who wouldn't shy away from difficult filming conditions. The Thing has been lauded for its amazing practical effects. Some have speculated the use of these super realistic, creepy effects contributed to the actors' performances, their genuine horror at some of the shape-shifting monsters seen on the screen. Now, if you're a Kurt Russell fan, you've probably seen The Thing, but if you haven't, gather some friends and watch it. So that is my list of the top 10 Kurt Russell films of all time. If you'd like to see more film breakdowns and interviews, please like and subscribe. Until next time, bye-bye.